Welcome back to a new video on this channel, and on this occasion is the Digi or Digitakt Mark II. This guide is like a course. At the description or the timeline, you have all the chapters. You can learn about something today, skip the section, or maybe come back a different day to keep learning. If you like what I do, please like the video, and this channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon. As soon as you turn it on, you will be on a pattern. Pressing play will play the active pattern. And then if you, of course, press stop, it will stop it. Now you have 8 different banks with 16 patterns per bank. At the top of the screen, it will tell you the bank and the pattern that you have loaded. If you go to function, this is the function. If you go to function and then bank, I know it says pattern, but if you go there and just press it, it will ask you to select a bank. And remember, you have all the way from the A to the H. Once you select a bank, then it will ask you to select a pattern, and right here you have the 16 patterns. I'm gonna press the number 1, and at the top it's telling me that I am on the B, and then the 01. If I do it again, I go to the bank H and then do, I don't know, pattern 3, it's gonna be H03. If I go again back to function and then bank, you can, after you select the bank, you can still change the bank with the arrows. Now this is a little bit different from the Mark I. Now you can use the arrows after you select a bank. Still, if you get out of here, when you go to pattern, notice that you get the same screen. So now you don't need to go to bank and pattern anymore. You just can go to pattern, select the bank with the arrows, and then maybe go to, I don't know, pattern number 1, and then, you are there. When you're playing a pattern and you go to a different pattern, when you tap a different one, it's going to cue in the next pattern. Of course, the first one needs to end, so you can cue the next one. Now, at the top, notice that it will blink the next pattern that you need, that it will, cue in. And if I changed again, maybe I'm going to go to pattern number 3, and it is, again, it says A2 and then A3. Now, when you have a pattern, you have 16 tracks available. And right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then all the way up to 16. When you select a track, it will play whatever sample or sound that it needs to play. If you want to silently select the track, you can go to track, you press and hold, and then you just select whatever track that you want to select. When you select a track, at the top it will tell you which track you're selecting. If I go to 16, right here it says 16. Now on the Elektron world, every time that you use something, it will be using a machine. This is how it's called, the engine that plays the sound. If you go to the source, right here, the SRC, this is the engine that will play the sample. Right here with the D, you can select the samples that you have loaded on the project. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. But if you want to change the machine that it's loaded, now you need to go to function and then just press SRC, and it will tell you all the machines that you can use. And all of these ones are just different methods that you get to play the sample. Now the Mark II has a little bit more, 2 different machines that we can use, and we also get machines if you use the arrows for the filter. Now we're going to talk about this much later. Now again, on the Mark I, you only had 8 audio tracks and 8 MIDI tracks. All the audio at the top, all the MIDIs at the bottom. But on the Mark II, all of this changes. All the tracks can be audio or can be MIDI. That's why when you go to a machine and maybe you change the tracks, all the tracks give you access to the different machines that you have. So all the tracks, again, can be MIDI if you want to. Then okay, so let's talk about projects. The unit storage calls plus drive. This holds everything. Samples, sounds, kits, projects, you name it. It's like your main storage. So the banks and the patterns that we are using right now, they belong to a project. When you turn on the device for the first time, you are on a project, and it's called the presets project, which is the one that you get from factory. If you go to the settings, this is the icon for the settings. Right here, you see the projects, and right here, when you're on the screen, or maybe the folders, you can use yes and no to navigate the different parts. I want to go to projects, I'm going to press yes. And right here, you can load, save your projects, or manage the projects. I'm going to show you the difference in a minute. First, I'm going to go to load projects. And as you can see, we are loading the presets project. Now with the arrows, I'm going to go and create a new project. I'm going to say yes. It's going to ask me, do you want to save? I don't want to save. And then I'm going to say yes. And it's going to give me a new empty project. I'm going to press no to get out of the screen. It's going to take you back to the main screen. Now, if I go to maybe the bank 1 or maybe the pattern number 1 of the bank A, if I play something, nothing happens. I get nothing. If I go to pattern 4, I get absolutely nothing. And if I even go to maybe a different bank, it doesn't matter. The whole thing, it's completely empty. Each project holds its own version of the 8 banks and 16 patterns each, for a total of 128 patterns. So with a single project, since we have so many patterns, we could create a complete live performance and then maybe load a new project and have something completely different. The managed projects will give you a few more options. So right here, you can scroll or navigate through the projects, and if you hold a function and maybe use the arrows, it's going to go by, by tens, I guess. So, you have a lot of projects that you can use. Now, on the managed projects, you have a lot of different options. If I do left, nothing is going to happen. You're going to see why in a minute. But if I do the right, you press the right arrow, you have a lot more options. And right here, of course, you can clear, delete, rename. This is the managed project screen. When you go right there, notice that you have a tiny little icon. And it's because, this is the default one, and from factory, it's locked. You cannot delete it. You know what? I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to go and say delete, and it says write protected. Now, it's still, you can do this with your own projects. You can go create a new one, and then just, make it write protected. Okay, so now we know that you can use a lot of projects and a lot of presets and a lot of patterns. But there is a catch. A project can only remember about 400 megabytes of samples. All the samples per project, they're going to be stored within the RAM of the device. And each sample that you store on the RAM of the device for a project is going to be allocated to a sample slot. Now, when you go to a track, maybe I'm going to select that one, and I go to the source, we can see all this. If I move the D, this one is the D, we can see that we have a few samples that we get when we create an initial project. And then we have empty slots. So all of these are the slots that we can use with the 400 megabytes of samples. This is why with the left and the right, we can go to different banks. That this works just like the pattern, but it's going to be for the samples of the project. Once you're here, if you want to select a sample, you can, play and audition the sample for that track. We're going to do all of this in a minute. So maybe I want that sound. I'm going to say yes, and it will assign it to this track so I can, use it and create something. So since there's a lot of memory and, storage and how much we can use, all the banks and everything else, how can I see or control how much samples I'm loading, or how much space do I have left? How many samples can I load? All of this, you can do it through the settings. If I go right here to the settings and go all the way down at the bottom, it's going to say system. You go yes, and then at the bottom, it says storage. So I'm going to press yes. This will show you how much you have left and how much you're using in the current project. The plus drive is the total storage of the device. And right here again, all the plus drive will store the projects, presets, kits, samples, everything. And you have 20 giga or gigabytes of storage. Then samples is how many samples are you using for this project. Remember, I am on a default project, so we get 16 default sounds. And then you see the sample time. This is the remaining sample time. Because it doesn't matter if you have 1000 slots, if you're loading pretty heavy samples or long samples, it will consume the space that you have left. So the more samples you add to a project, the more RAM you will consume. Again, this is important. That's why you see the RAM there and how much space you have left. Alright, so now we know that we need a project that uses samples and how many samples we can use. But notice that the storage talks about, this screen talks about samples, but also presets and kits. So, okay, so let's learn first how to assign, how to work with sample slots before talking about presets and kits. And I'm going in this specific order because everything is related. To assign samples to your project slots, you have two different methods. And I'm always starting with the default project. So, we can all start from the same place. I'm going to go to the source, and right here, I'm going to go to select the sample. Since I'm on a default project, I get, all the 16 default sounds. But this time, I'm going to go to, an empty slot. Right here on the empty, I'm going to be pressing yes. Once you do so, this is going to take you to the sample menu. And right here, you can use the arrows to, go up and down. You can use your level data if you want to. And then, of course, yes and no will enter the directories. I'm going to go to the factory. From factory, you have a lot of sounds. All the different sounds are going to be separated in categories. So maybe I want to load some, textures. I'm going to go and say yes. If you want to go back, you just need to press no. So I'm going to press yes, and I'm going to go maybe to Flutter. And right here, you see the samples. You can go up and down. And notice that you can audition all different samples. I'm going to press to the right. And when you press to the right, notice it says right here assigned to A17, but also it says auto preview. Maybe if this from factory is going to be disabled. If you press yes, it's going to disable it. And now when I go up and down, it will not auto preview the sample. You can also, to audition a sample, press function and then yes, and it will audition the sample. It will just play back the sample. Now in this case, I'm going to go and enable the auto preview because, I like it. So, you can scroll all the different samples. It will just play it back. Now, once you are ready and you find a sample that you want to assign, you just need to press yes. I'm going to say yes, just press it, and it's going to assign it to A17. Now, if I go to a different sample, whatever, it doesn't matter, and I do yes again, it will assign it to the same sample slot. And this is because we are, and I'm going to press no to go back, or maybe just go to source. And this is because we went to a different, or maybe an empty slot, and we are just, loading the sample for that specific slot. So this method, it's only to assign one single sample slot. Now, when you go to a slot where you already have a sample, you can do function and then do yes. And this will take you to the sample assign, the main menu, and it's gonna, show you where the sample is located. And right here, if you want to, you can maybe go to a different sound and just change it. Just do yes, and now that one is assigned. And if I, play it, we have the sample. So like I said before, this is a one-by-one deal. You can only change one single sample slot. But we do have a different method. You need to go to function right here. You know what? I'm going to maybe go to that slot. I'm going to do function, and then you need to go to this icon, and it says samples. So we want to go there. Once you're there, you have two options. You want to see the samples that you have on your drive, which, remember, is your main storage, or you want to see the samples that you have on your project RAM. In this case, I want to, bring new samples. So I'm going to say yes. And now we are back to the same as before. If I go to factory, maybe I can go to tonal, whatever, and then maybe go to fragment. And right here, we will have a lot of different sounds. Now on the screen, if I do to the right, you have a lot more functions. So these are more like the advanced functions that you can do. So like, you can select all, deselect, move, rename, delete, and so on and on and on. And on the bottom, you have the auto preview. I'm going to disable the auto preview for now because it's just a little bit annoying. So what is the main difference with the other method? On this one, what you can do, you can select multiple samples if you want, just by going to the different samples and pressing the yes. Notice that we have a check mark. Super cool. And now we can go right here at the right. And then at the top, it says load to project. Once I do so, I'm going to say yes, it's going to load all the samples. And then if I go back to source and I go to the sample select, that is that we have all the samples right here. So, okay, so it's completely up to you if you want to do one by one or to assign many right here to the source. Now, maybe you notice when we assign sample is allocating samples, it's allocating the samples to empty slots. Whatever empty slot that it can find is going to put it right there. But what if I want to assign samples maybe to the bank H? We can do so. I'm going to go to function and samples again to the same place. And I'm going to go to the factory and then, oscillators, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to go right here. Now, when I select the samples and I go right here, when you do to the right, you see this option, destin, and then it says bank, and then it says any. So you can change this. I could go to function and say yes. And now instead of any, I can use the triggers that you have right here to select a bank, or I can use the arrows. So I'm going to be allocating these samples maybe to the bank H. Once you're done, you're going to say yes, and I'm going to be loading to the project. Make sure that you have the H in this case. I'm going to say yes to load the project. And if I go back to source, I can go to the bank H and see that all the samples are there. Okay, so now we know how to load samples to the project and then assign it to the different tracks. But you also have presets and you also have kits. So let's talk about presets first. When you are using a track or you add a sample to a track, that track holds a lot of different params, like filters and envelopes and effects if you want to use effects. So everything that you do right here will change how the sample sounds. When you're done creating your sounds and changing all your params, you can store whatever it is that you did as a preset so you can reuse it later. You have a few factory presets, and to go there, you need to go to this button. This is the preset button. And notice it says presets, and then it says kits. This is like the main screen when you handle all the presets and the kits. You can load, you can save presets, and then you can manage. I'm going to show you this in a second. Then it says pool, and we're going to talk about the pool later because this is about preset locks. We are not there yet. We are still on the basics. In this case, I'm going to go to load because I want to load a preset. I'm going to go there. So this will give you a list of all the presets that you have available. You can go up and you can go down, and if you press a trigger, you can audition the different preset. And notice that you can do this with whatever trigger that you press. You can also do function and do yes, like we did with the samples, to audition the different presets. When you go up and down, you're going to be going by 1. If you hold a function and then you go down, it's going to go by 5s. You can also use the level data to go up and down in presets. Now, when it comes to presets, you have 8 different banks with 256 slots per bank. So yeah, a lot of presets. Since you can have a lot of presets, when you press the left arrow, you can have more functions. All of these functions are dedicated to, filter and just, find the presets. If I go to search and press yes, I can just enter the name of the preset, and this will find the preset for me. Then I can go to filter, and then I can filter by category. I can go to maybe, kick. And this, when I do so, I'm going to get out and then go right here. It will show me all the presets that have the category of kick. These are called tags. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. If I go to filter, I'm going to go to clear and then go back, and I can see all the different presets again. Again, if I go back, you can sort by letter or you can sort by number. If I press yes, now it's going to sort by letter, right? And if I go back and then sort 1, 2, 3, it's going to go back and give me 1, 2, 3, 4, all the different presets in order. If I go there, then I can select a bank. Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't. Right now, it's showing me all the different presets that I have for all the banks. Now, from factory, you have a lot of presets on the A, right? Almost all. Not all, but if you have a lot, and then you don't have any more presets for the B, the C, the D, and so on and so on. In this case, this is my preset I created, a few minutes ago. So in this case, what happens if I want to go and find the presets for a very specific bank? I'm going to go select bank, and right here, you have the arrows that you can use to select a different bank. Notice that I can also press the triggers. I'm going to go maybe to the bank H. I'm going to get out by pressing no, and I only have one preset on the bank H. I'm going to go to the top of the list. If you go to the right side, you don't have any more options. Okay, so I can like this preset. I want to load it to a track. I'm going to go and just press yes, and this will load the preset to the track. I'm going to go all the way down, all the way back, and now that preset is there, and I can use it. I can go now to a different track and do the same trick. Go, load. I can audition. I like this one. I'm going to say yes. And then if I go back, now we have the presets. A preset uses a sample, so it will import this sample to your project. If I go to that one and move this, notice that it says device too. So it's importing that sample to my project. If you delete that sample from the main storage of the device, you will be deleting like the backbone of the preset. I'm gonna go to maybe this one. You have a different way to load presets. I can go to function, hold it, and when you move the level data, you can go to a different preset. I can, release this and just go here and just move it and scroll. And then again, you have to the left all the sorting options, and I can, load that one. And there we go. The preset was loaded. And still, we have one more way. I'm going to go maybe to the 4, and I'm going to go to the preset manager. Right here, you have the manage. And this screen is just like this sample manager. If you want to audition, you can, if you want, but again, this is like the main manager. If you go to the left, you can still do all the sorting, but right here, if you go to the right side, you can perform, the advanced options like rename, delete, and so on and on and on. Okay, so I'm gonna go all the way back, and I'm gonna go maybe to a new pattern. When I go to a new pattern, I'm using the default kit. It will not take, whatever presets I assigned to the pattern number 1. If I go back to the 1, it will, kind of remember this. Still, it's always a good practice going to right there and save the project, or maybe save the pattern. And it is that right here, it says save project. So you can do function and this one, and it will go to save the project. I'm gonna maybe do this later. Now in this case, I want to go to a different pattern. Again, I get the default kit, and I'm gonna go to the kick. What I want to do, I want to clear this track because I want to bring my own sample and create my own preset. Now, when you are on a track, you can hold track and then you can do clear, and this will clear the track. If I play it, there's nothing. And if you see right there at the top, there's no sample signed. All of this, this action, what it will do, it will clear everything that you have right here and put it back on default, even the sample. So now what I can do, I can maybe choose a sample, and it doesn't matter, I'm going to use whatever sample. I'm going to use that one. And let's say that I want to mess with the effects and the reverb and the delay, and maybe I want to do a little bit of filter. And I'm just going to do something like this. So now this track has a sample assigned, and it has a different configuration of the params. I can store this as a preset, and I can reuse it later. To store the preset, I need to go right here to the same option than before, and right here it says save. I can go to save, and remember that you do have a lot of different places where you can save it. And you can even, again, sort by something. In this case, I want to store it on the bank H, and I'm gonna go to the last one, and it's gonna be the bank H. If I go here, notice that it's pretty much empty. I only have, in my case, one single preset, and this is my preset. So I'm gonna be storing it on the 2. I'm gonna say yes, and this will take you to the renaming screen. Actually, it's the naming screen. So here you have all the options, whatever you can do. And I guess I don't need to explain this, but you can do function and use the different arrows to maybe change the name. So once I have the name ready, I just need to press yes. This will take you to the category. You need to select a tag. And right here, you need to select something that makes sense. Maybe this one is a sound effects. Well, I can select that one, and maybe I'm gonna do this one. Okay. So once you're ready, at the bottom, you can, of course, reset clear, but in this case, I want to save. And once, it's done, it's saved. I can go to, the presets, and just to confirm this, I can go here and check, see that the preset is there. So if I go to the preset, notice that it says Lobo. I can go here and do the same thing again. I can go to the presets and, just maybe load that preset again. Because the idea is that when we do this, we can reuse the same preset multiple times and on different projects. Now that we know how to load samples and create presets, it's time to talk about kits. I have a tiny little pattern going on. I know it's super boring. That's the actual point. So a track, as we know, it uses a preset. That preset uses a sample. So a pattern can use a kit, which is a collection of presets. So this is like loading a drum rack on your DAW, for example. Well, this is pretty much the same. Again, if I play it, this is using the default kit that you get when you create a new project. It's like the default. the default sounds for all the tracks. What I want to do, I want to go to the kits, and it's the same place than the presets, and I want to load a new kit. I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to go to load and press yes. Just like the presets, when you go to the left, you have the filtering options. You can search or maybe search all the different banks that you have for the kits. And this is again, just like the presets. If I want to load a kit, notice that you can load an init kit, but I'm going to go to whatever, it doesn't matter, and I'm going to be doing yes. Once you do so, it's going to load that kit. And if I play back my pattern, now it's a different thing. It's using that kit, which is a collection of 16 different sounds with different samples and different params configurations. Cool, right? You can even do this while it's playing back. Maybe I'm gonna go right here and I'm just gonna, load this one. I'm gonna load it. It's gonna take a second. And now it just loaded the kit. If you want to stay on the same screen when you are on the load screen, maybe you can go here and you can do function and then yes. I'm going to do function and then yes. And it's going to load the preset and it will not exit the screen. It will not take you back. Right? Super cool. I'm going to load a couple more kits just because, I want to show you something. Now, every time that you load a kit, it represents 16 presets. And remember that a preset uses a sample. So when you import or you load a kit, that kit is going to import the samples that it's using. Notice that our count for the samples went all the way up. Now we have 70 something. Actually, we have more. It's going to be like 91 samples. If you go to function and then you hold it and then you go to samples right here, it gives you the drive, but also gives you the project RAM. So this will show you all the samples that you have loaded on your project. In this case, I'm going to go out right now and I'm going to play. And I'm using this kit. I really don't know which one it is. But the thing is that I have a lot of different samples that I'm not really using. So going again to function and then samples, I can go to my project RAM. And right here, you can, select the samples and you have a lot of different functions that you can execute. Like, select, undo, select, replace, and so on and so on. But you have one option that is super useful, is the select unused. So this will select all the samples that you're not really using on your project. And I'm going to do so. I'm going to select all the unused. And as you can see right here, if I keep going down, notice a lot of the samples are just selected. And it's because I'm not using them. If I go back after you do select unused, you can do unload. I'm going to do unload and it's going to say unload 60 samples. Yeah, I'm going to say yes and confirm. Now, when I get back to the source, now we have less samples. It still says 91 because it keeps the slot location. But if I keep scrolling up, notice that we have a lot of empty spaces right now. So, you have a lot of slots. But sometimes, when you start loading kits, it will bring a lot of samples and it's hard to maintain. So this is a nice way, again, to free your RAM a little bit more. I'm going to go all the way back to main, and right here, if I go to the kit, you have the manage. Just like you have the manager, the main manager for the samples, you have it for the presets. Well, of course, you have one for the kits. Like before, you can go to the left, you can sort the different kits, and if you go to the right, you have a lot of different advanced functions. And again, if we go maybe to our kit, right? We start from the scratch. We start adding presets to all the 16 different tracks. You can, of course, do less. And then, maybe you want to save it as a kit. It's the same thing that we did before with the presets and the samples. You can go right here and then save the kit. And this will store on whatever slot that you select. Right here, you can, of course, choose the bank. You can select whatever slot, and it will take you to the naming screen, and so on and so on and so on. And this will store the kit, right? So you can reuse it later. Right, so let's do live recording first. I am on an empty pattern with a default kit. It's a good idea to set the tempo before you start. You can do function, just hold it, and right here you can tap the tempo. And you do it 4 times, and it's just gonna change the tempo right here at the top. Now, if you press play, the metronome will not be on. So this means that you can go right here and you can turn it on. All the different knobs will change some param that you have right here. You can turn on the metronome. If I play it, it's going to be like that. You can change the volume of the metronome. You can change the time signature. With the A, you can change the tempo of the pattern. And with this one, you can change the fine of the pattern of the BPM. If I go down, I'm going to go back. With the D, you can change the swing. As you can see, this is just pretty simple. So I'm going to go back to 4/4. And also, what you can use to change the BPM is going to be the level data. If I go up on this one, it's going to go up in tempo and down in tempo. Super easy. I'm going to stop the playback for now. When you press a function, notice that you have something that says per pattern tempo. You can change this with the E. If you change it, you move it at the top. Instead of saying pattern, it's going to say project. And what the F is the difference? Well, if you keep it on per pattern, every time that you play a pattern or you select a new pattern, it will be, using whatever tempo you have stored for that pattern. But if you change it to per project, all the patterns within your project will have the same tempo. And all of this is super useful if you want to cue different patterns and keep playing the same tempo. So it's useful for live performance. Okay, so I have my metronome, the volume, no swing, 120 BPMs. Just pressing this is going to get out. If I play, it's going to give me the count in. Cool. So I want to record something. I'm going to press the rec and I'm going to hold it and then I'm going to do play. Notice that the rec is flashing. When it's flashing, this means live recording, and whatever is that you play is going to record it. And there you go. It's that simple. Now, I want you to notice, and I'm going to go up in volume just a little bit. I want you to notice that the track I recorded is a little bit off. The metronome is just a little bit off. And this is because when I did a live recording, the quantization is off. So I want to record this again. You can, with the rec is off, you can do funk, just hold it and then press clear and it will delete the sequence. It will erase it. And now I'm just back to nothing. If I want to do live record again, I'm going to be pressing this, I'm going to hold it, and now if I tap it, notice at the top it says unquantized. If I tap it again, now it's going to say quantized. So whatever I do is going to quantize it. There you go. So everything I did will quantize it for me. Still, we have a very special screen called Quantize. We're going to show you in a minute. If you want to stop the sequence, you can press stop and everything will stop. But if you're live recording and you want to exit live recording and keep the playback, you can press play and it will exit live recording and keep playing back. If you press play, it will pause wherever you are and then continue. So this is like the pause, right? So it will not stop it. And if at some point you want to get back to live recording, it's the same deal. You just press and hold and then press play and it's gonna start recording and you can record whatever it is that you want. Cool. Now I want you to notice that when you're in this method, if you tap the rec one time, it's gonna be on. When the rec is on, you are now on a different method called grid recording. And it's a different way of recording. I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to get out of the grid recording. I'm going to hold the function and delete the sequence. If I play back, I have nothing. I'm going to go to rec and I'm going to change it to unquantized, just like we did before. And I'm going to be recording something. As you can hear, it's a little bit off. So what I can do, I can go to, and I'm going to stop it. I'm going to go to function and go to the trigger. Whole function, do trigger, is going to take you to the quantize menu. So here you can select or change the quantization strength. If you recorded something already, you can still quantize it. Right here, it's per pattern. So whatever is that I do, if I go to the H, is going to quantize it. Of course, depending on how you record it, it's going to do it or not. this case, it's not working, but that's fine. But this is doing it to the whole pattern, all the tracks that we have inside. If I go down, we are back to the same. If I want to maybe quantize the hats, and I guess we are already there, and it's test track 6, well, I'm gonna go to the E, and I'm quantizing that track only. I can go to the kick, and I can quantize that track only. And if I go to the snare, by holding the track, notice that that one is not quantized. So in conclusion, you can quantize the whole pattern or just, quantize different tracks. I'm gonna get out of here, I'm gonna do funk, and I'm gonna do clear. And I'm gonna be going to the quantized. When I start recording, notice that it will not count before I start recording. So when you go to the metronome settings or tempo settings, this one is going to be the pre-roll. So if you want, you can make it count up to 16 bars, which, it's a little bit too much. I'm going to be doing just 2 bars. So now when you do rec and play, it's going to count 2 bars, and then it will start recording. And there you go, something easy to hear. I'm going to hold the function and I want to move the A. As I move it, while I'm holding the function, notice that the tempo is not changing. I'm going to go really up. I'm going to go to 160. Now, I'm still holding the function and this one is blinking, but the tempo never changes. When you hold the release of the function, then and only then it will go to that tempo. And this is a nice feature, again, if you're live performing. And I'm gonna go back to 120. When I release it, it's gonna go to that tempo. Also, with the arrows, you can nudge the tempo up, and when you release it, it's gonna go back, or you can nudge it down, and when you release, it's gonna go back. You can even do this without, being on the tempo screen, on the tempo. Notice at the top, it will go down and go up. Right, so live recording. I'm gonna do function and clear the sequence. If I play it, I have nothing back. So this is one way of recording sequences. Then we have the grid recording. To do grid recording, you just need to press the rec. And notice that now it's not blinking, it's steady. So this means grid recording. And right here, the only thing you need to do is to choose the track that you want and then just tap the steps where you want the track to play. So in this case, I'm gonna go and select the kick. And the kick is going to be on the 1, the 5, 13, and then the 9. If I play it back, it's going to do so. I want to change tracks, no problem. I'm going to go here, select the snare. And the snare is going to be on 5, and then on 13. I want the hats, is the number 6. I'm going to go to track, select the number 6. And I'm going to be adding the hats. And just like before, if you want to get out, you can just press rec. It's going to get out and play. You can pause and continue from the same spot. If you press rec again, it's going to take you back to grid recording. Now, one thing I want you to notice, if I am out of grid recording, if I do function and do clear, we know that this will clear the sequence. I'm going to go back to grid recording. I'm going to do track and just, I'm going to do track. I'm going to select the track and I'm going to be adding some steps. You can go really fast with grid recording. I'm going to do 6 and there you go. So, same thing that we had from before. If I do the same thing, if I do function and clear and grid recording, it's on, it will be erasing whatever you have on the track that you have selected. In this case is the hats. So I do function, I'm going to do clear, and it's just clearing the sequence for the hats. If I go to the snare, you can see the steps of the snare. I'm going to do function, clear, the snare is gone. And if I go to the kick, same deal, function, clear, and it's going to delete the kick. Okay, so I'm going to be adding some kicks, and this time I'm going to go to the snare and add 1 to the 5, 1 to the 13. Now what we can do, we can just press the trigger. In this case is the 5 or 13. I'm going to press it, and now I need to use the arrows. If I go up, notice it tests micro timing. This is what we'll do. It will offset forwards or backwards the trigger or the step. Notice the snare is a little bit off. So we can go, forwards or backwards, let's say, or behind, and so on and so on. If always you want to go back to the beginning, right here is going to tell you on grid. And you can do this with, all the different triggers. And this is called, again, micro timing. So that's it. That's the grid recording. It's just pretty simple. Always remember to go to the settings, go to the project and save the project. Even, you can do save project as, or maybe do function and save the project if you already have it saved, or if you do a func and save project, you can select an empty slot and save it there. Okay, so I'm gonna get out, and you have one more recording type, which is called step recording, but I will not deep dive into this. It's not the most popular, and it's just, pretty easy to learn. There is a whole section in the manual, and if you're interested in that mode, go to the manual and just check it out. I much prefer to move on to the next topic. When you select a track, go to whole track, maybe select the bass, and this one, I guess, is some synth. Yep, is a synth. What we can do, we can go to the keyboard layout, and with this, you can play different keys, right? So I can do live recording and stay on this mode and just record something. And there we go. Easy as that. Now, there's a lot more to this. I'm gonna stop it for now, and I'm gonna do function, and I'm gonna go to the keyboard. Now, right here, you have a visual representation of the keyboard, and also you can choose scales with the E. If I go here, I want you to notice this part, the triggers, because depending on the scale and the root note, it will change the layout of the keyboard. Maybe we want some minor pentatonic, and then if we want to select the root, we can't change the root. In this case, I'm just going to keep it on C5. And notice the keyboard will only show you the keys that you can play. If you press something else, it will not play because it's not within the scale. Still, if this is a little bit annoying because you have a lot of empty keys, you can go right here and change the keyboard layout. This option is keyboard fold. By default, it's off, but you can change it to on. Maybe the camera, again, there's a lot of light right here because I'm filming, but these ones are blue. So you can play up to here, and this is going to be 1 octave up. And now you can, with this layout, play different octaves. Now, how can you change the octaves if you are on this mode or maybe on the fold mode? So right here, the up and the down will just change the octaves. And again, it works the same right here. And all of this, it's completely up to you. It depends on which keyboard mode you want to use. In my opinion, this one is the most useful because you can record something right here and easily go up to different octaves without going up and down. And if you want to get out of this screen, you just need, just to press the keyboard and it will just get out. Okay, so something new that you get on the Mark II is going to be the trigger modes. If you do function, you just press and hold it and you go to the up and down, it will give you different trigger modes. And I'm back on a default patch, right? So just back there, and I'm going to go and stay on the snare. So when I go to function and I go up, the tracks mode is the current default mode, which is going to be you press the trigger, it will just play a sample, and that's it. Now, the other modes are a little bit different. I can use velocity. This means that all the different keys will play the same track I selected. I have selected, in this case, it's the snare. I can play it, and it will play different velocities. Of course, if you want to record all of this, it will just do so, right? That's the whole point. I'm gonna stay on the snares. I could maybe go to a different track, just like holding the track and selecting the tracks. And this is the same deal. But in this case, I'm gonna be going to the snare because it's gonna be very obvious. I'm gonna go function and I'm gonna go to the next mode. This one is the Retrigger. This one, what we'll do, it will just re-trigger whatever track that you have selected at a different rate. So if I go to this one, it's going to be super fast. But I can go to other ones. And, they're all different rates. And the main point, again, is just to record this. I'm going to clear the sequence. And if I play back, I have absolutely nothing. If I go to function, I'm going to go down and I'm going to go to the preset pool. When you select this method, what you can do is to load on all your triggers different presets that you loaded on your preset pool. Now, we didn't discuss the preset pool, but for the ones that come from Digi or Digitakt 1, I will show you right now. If you're new to the Digi or Digitakt world, don't worry, I'm going to give you a full explanation of how the presets, the pools, the pool, and all of that works right from the scratch. I'm going to do it in a few sections. So, of course, you need to add presets to your sound pool. I'm going to be going here, and right here, I can go to the presets, and I'm going to go to manage. What I want to do, I want to load different sounds to the preset pool. So I'm going to be selecting, and made a mistake. I'm going to be selecting, randomly a lot of different sounds. It doesn't matter. This is just to show you. And once I have a lot selected, I'm going to go and say add to the preset pool. Okay, so notice it says 23 presets loaded. And now all of this, it's yellow. The main point is that when you go to this trigger mode, the preset pool is going to load on each trigger a preset that you loaded to the pool. So if I play different ones, is going to give me, different presets. To load, notice that right now we have 16. What happens if I want to see the other presets? Because I did 23. You need to press and hold the page, and you go to the next page, and you see the rest. So you have 8 pages of 16 presets that you can see right here. If I do live recording, I can just tap whatever it is that I want. It's just going to record it, and it's just a fantastic function. Super useful and just creative. If you want to go back to the default, you just hold the function and go back to the tracks. Like I said before, if you are a little bit confused about the pool and what I just did, don't worry. I'm going to talk about the pool and the presets in a couple of sections. Okay, so we know how to create a sequence, but so far we used 16 steps. The Mark II can do up to 128 steps of 8 pages of 16 steps each, twice as the Mark I. So let's again create a dumb sequence of 16 steps. I'm going to go to grid recording, I'm going to select the track, and I'm just going to be adding some kicks, and I'm going to be adding some snares. Again, something simple, so we don't lose the focus. So what I want to do, right here, it shows that, we have one single page of 16 steps. I want to extend it. To do so, you need to go to function, hold it, and then press the page. And this will take you to the sequencer page setup. You can go to the E and move it. It's going to go by ones. And remember, you can go up to 128 steps. Also, you can use the arrows. You can go up or you can go down. If you go to the page and you press it, in this case, it's going to go by 16. So it's going to be one page. And this is super useful. I'm going to go back to 16. You have the same function at the page, but you can do it with the func and then the E, and it will go by 16s. So again, just different ways of doing the same thing. What happens if I want to do something in between, or maybe less than 16 steps? Well, you can do it with the encoder, but right here you have the triggers. If I do 5, it's going to take it, and now it's going to be playing just 5 steps. Right? So if I go back to 16, I can do back 16. If I play the sequence, I want you to notice that, we have a kick and a snare. And this will last 16 steps. Simple enough. Now, right here, when I extend the pattern, it's going to be 32, 48, 64. I'm going to get out. I'm going to say no and get out. Now, the lights will show you where you currently are. And I'm going to get out of grid recording for now. We are just playing back. Right here, the lights will just go to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one, and show you where you are right now. Now, I want you to notice that when I extended the sequence, it's not just extending, it's copying whatever you had from before, and then just, pasting it, which is, again, handy. Another thing that you can do when you go to function and you go to the page is the resolution. And this one is going to be the F, and you can go just faster, and then you can go slower. And I'm just showing you all the obvious functions because, again, this is a deep dive and I need to show you everything. I'm gonna get out of the screen. Now again, remember that the lights will tell you where you are. What if I want to go to a very specific page and just change something? I'm gonna be playing it with the rec on. I'm gonna press it, and now we are on grid recording. And notice that I have a green light on the first page. Now if I press page, I can move to other pages. So maybe I just want to edit the page number 2. I'm going to be going to the track 6 and just going to be adding some steps. I'm going to go to the page 4 and I'm going to be using the hats and just adding some steps. And there you go. We are just editing page by page. I'm gonna stop it. Now, you can do this even if you're stopped. Notice I'm still on grid recording and I can move through the pages, make my edits, just do my edits, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna do something crazy, just play it back, and we will get it. So you can, again, do it without playing back. And I want you to notice that when you're on grid recording, it will always latch you to this screen, to this, to this page. It's never moving on from this page. If you want to disable this, you just want to go back. So you just disable or just toggle off the grid recording and it will just go to the normal playback mode. Cool. Now I'm gonna go to function, clear the sequence, and if I play it back, we have nothing. What I'm gonna do is function, then page, and I just want to make it 16 steps. I'm gonna get out of here and do a rec, and I'm gonna be going to the kick, add some kicks, going to the snare, add some snares. And again, I know that all of this is just, super simple. I'm gonna go to track and add some hats. I'm gonna go to function and then page. At the bottom, it says function and yes, and then per track. Well, the F is this. So if I do function and then press yes, now it's gonna be per pattern. And if I do function and then yes, it's gonna be back to per track. Now, when we are using per pattern, it means that whenever we go up on the page or we extend the sequence, all the tracks will extend to that length. If we make it 64, all tracks will be 64 steps. If I go to function and then go back to yes, now we're going to be on per track. And what is the difference? Now, the main difference is that you can offset the length of different tracks. So maybe I'm going to be holding track. I'm going to be going to the 6. I'm going to be playing it back. Now, the 6, it's 16 steps and it's going by, speed of 1x. And at the top, it will tell you the track that you have loaded right now. So I can go right here to the length and change the length to something else. And I'm going to be changing it to 5. So we have something a little bit different since we can notice it. So now the track 6 is going at a different length. If I go to the kick, that one is 16s. So for different tracks now we can do a different length. That's the whole, the whole thing. If I go to 6, we can even go to the F and change the rate. Cool. So if I wanted to go to maybe the snare and do the same thing, maybe I can make it, 8, just to do something. I'm gonna go to 8. Or maybe I'm gonna do 7, so we can really hear this. So now this is called polyrhythm. It has different names, depends on how you want to call it. But again, the idea is that you can target different tracks and have them play at a different length. Now, since now you have different tracks going at a different length or speed, independent from each other, you might encounter a different problem. And that's why you have the option at the right, which is going to be the pattern. And it says pattern because this options is for the whole pattern, not for each of the tracks. Now, the reset will decide when the sequence resets and everything starts all over from the step 1 again. Like I said before, all the tracks are going at a different length. So what happens if I want them to meet at the step number 1 for all the tracks? Well, you can go right here and I'm going to say that when we reach the step number 5, all the tracks will reset back to the step number 1. And this is why we hear this type of sound, because I'm doing 5. But maybe we can say that at step 16, all the tracks will just reset back to the beginning. And again, just a pretty useful function. You can go right here, and I'm gonna go all the way down. Notice that you can do 1024, you know, but I'm gonna go to inf. So this means that it will never reset. But this, you know, it's cool, but it gives us a problem. If I go back, and I know it sounds weird, but you know, if I go back and I go to maybe a different pattern, I'm gonna hold the pattern and go to the pattern number 2. And I'm gonna release it. At the top, it's blinking, waiting to queue from pattern 1 to pattern 2, but it will never go there. And it's because it doesn't know when to go, because, you know, there's no resets, there's no change, there's nothing. It doesn't know the length of, you know, the actual sequence, so it will never queue. If I stop it and I go, you know, this changes, and it's because I am on the pattern number 2. It will only queue when I stop the sequence. I'm gonna do it again. Go right here. It's just never going. I'm gonna stop, and then and only then it's gonna go. So if I go to the pattern number 1, the changed length is going to decide how much it's gonna wait when we queue a new pattern. And I'm gonna be going and saying, okay, so I want you to wait, I don't know, 64, maybe 64 steps, something like that. So when I do so, and I'm gonna be playing it back, I'm gonna be holding and going to the next pattern, and at some point, it's gonna wait for 64, and then it's gonna change. So, you know, the change and the reset are super, you know, super important, especially if you're doing inf. Okay, so mute mode. I'm gonna go to pattern number 1. If I play it, it's gonna sound like that. But I'm gonna be going to the pattern number 2, and it's just pretty much the same, but just a little bit different. But the takeaway right here is that we have 2 different patterns. And I'm gonna go back to the 1. Okay, so if I go to function and hold it, notice that right here on the track it says mute mode. Again, if I hold it, I'm gonna be tapping this, and notice it changes colors. Just like this, and it's green and it's purple. You can always release the function. If you want to get out, you just tap it again. So the green one, this one, is going to be the global mute, and the other one, the purple one, is going to be the track mute. What the F is the difference. So remember, I am on the pattern number 1. So what I will do, I'm going to be going to the mute, and I'm going to be going to the purple one, the track mute. If I play it right here with this, what we can do, we just can, you know, tap it, and it will mute whatever track that it's currently playing. So simple as that. But this time, I'm going to be going to the pattern number 2. If I go to the 2, notice that we can hear the kick, and we can hear everything else. So it's not muting the track. If I go back to the previous pattern, we can hear or see that those tracks are muted. So when you work with the purple mode, which is, again, the track mutes, you're going to be muting tracks. But when you change patterns, the tracks will not stay muted. That's why it's called track mute. It will only work for the pattern. And of course, if you want to enable the mutes back, you just need to tap it. And there you go. In this case, I'm going to be going to the other mode. The other mode is going to be the green one, and it's the global mutes. Global means project level. If I play the pattern number 1, I'm going to be going back to, you know, the green global mute, and I'm going to just mute the kick and just mute the hats. Now, if I go to the pattern number 2, I want you to notice that we are on the 2, and the kick and the hat are still muted. This is because it means, again, project level. It will mute these tracks for all the patterns within the same project. And all of this is just super useful if you are just, you know, working with a performance or doing a live performance and you need to queue a different pattern. Well, you know, the global might help you because you can enable the tracks back whenever you want to for all the different patterns. And again, this is just completely up to you and depends on what you want to do. Now again, remember to get out function track is going to get out. Right, so we know a lot. We know how to work with samples, presets, kits, create sequences, manage length, edit the sequence, different ways of recording a sequence. You know, we know a lot. So now I wanted to show you a couple of functions that you need to use the whole time, and then we will move on to a different thing. I have a tiny little pattern, just like before. What I want to do, I want to copy the pattern and paste it someplace else. With the rec is off, I can do function, and I'm gonna press the rec, and this is gonna copy the whole pattern. And now you just, if you want to go maybe to, I don't know, pattern number 5, and I want to paste it, there's nothing there. I'm going to do function, and then we're going to do paste, and this will paste the whole damn pattern. Cool. What if I want to just copy maybe this track? For this, the rec needs to be on. I'm going to be going to grid recording, right? So in this case, I'm going to do function and I'm going to do copy. And right here it says copy track sequence. It's copying the sequence, not the track. I mean, not the sample, not the, the params. It's just copying the sequence. So now maybe I can go to a different track, and it could be a track on the same pattern. Maybe I'm going to go, I don't know, to 16. I really don't know what is there. You know what? I'm going to go to the 7. I'm going to go there and I'm going to do a function with the rec on. I'm going to do paste, and it says paste track sequence. So if I play it, I guess it's some writes. Cool. I'm going to go back to our first pattern, and if I play it back, I guess we have that. So I'm going to be going to function, and I'm going to extend the sequence to, I don't know, 64. I guess, that's fine. So what I want to do is maybe go to the grid recording. I'm going to go to the page number 2, and I'm going to be going to that annoying write, and I'm going to be maybe disabling it. There you go. And I'm going to be staying on that page, and I don't know, I'm going to be going to the clap because I kind of like it, and I'm going to be doing something like this so we can identify this page. Cool. So we know that's the sound. What I want to do, I want to copy that page and paste it maybe on page number 4. Now to do this, the rec needs to be on, and I'm going to be going to the page and just hold it. And now I'm going to be going to copy, and then it says copy page. I'm going to be navigating to the page where I want to paste. I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to be pasting it. And now if I start from the scratch again, is the annoying ride, it claps, annoying ride, and then claps. So can you notice what happened? So when we copy the page, what it's doing, it's copying the track. It's not copying the whole sequence. I mean, all the tracks, all the 16 tracks. It's just copying the track that I selected, which in this case was the clap. So back to an init to sequence, and now we need to talk about the Euclidean sequencer. If you go to function and then you hit the amp, it's going to take you to this screen. So what this sequencer does is that when you select a track, it's going to generate something for you. I'm on the clap track. So if I go to the number 1 and I do something, nothing happens. If I do play, we can hear that nothing happens. So you need to turn it on. Once you turn it on, you will see that this pulse generator, it will generate some triggers behind the scenes. That's, again, how it works. In this case, I'm going to go to 4, and the knobs are a little bit sensitive. So right now we don't see what it's generating behind the scenes, but if you go to grid recording, you can see that it's 4, it is generating 1, 5, 9, and 13. Now if I go to 2, it's doing 1 on each 1 and 9. So of course you can go to different positions and trying to get something cool. That's the main idea. So you have 2 pulses and both are completely the same. If I do 4 on this one, it's going to get you 4. And at the bottom you have something that says RO. This will just rotate the positions of the triggers. It's going to rotate back or forwards. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to go back to 0 and go back down on the 2. The pulse 2 does exactly the same. It just works exactly the same. You can rotate forwards and backwards. Now, the cool thing is that when you have something going on the 1 and the 2, and you start combining all this, now then the TRO means that you can rotate both pulses at the same time. All right, so as you can see, it's not that hard. It's just pretty simple. Now, again, the knobs are a little bit way too sensitive. I'm going to go down on the 1 and down on the 2. Now then you have this option, and this one is the operator. I'm going to go to the first option. Now the first one, it's going to be the OR. It means that if you have a pulse on the 1 and something on the 2, it will play whatever you have on the 1 and the 2. Right? It's just reading the triggers and it will trig them all. That's all. Now I'm going to go to 4 and then going to go to 4. So both are going to be playing on the same spot, right? 1 and 5, 9 and 13. So if I go to the next operator, notice that we get full silence. So the XOR means that the 1 and 2 play, and if they are positioned on the same step, it will not play. It means that the 1 will cancel the 2 and the 2 will cancel the 1. Now, if you use them on the same position, it makes no sense because you get total silence. But you know, the idea of this is that you can offset the different pulses and you can get, you know, combinations. Because sometimes they will fall into the same place and they will cancel each other. That's the idea. All right, so then you have the other one, the next one, which is the AND. Now, this one is the opposite. It will only play the steps when the 1 and the 2 are on the same step. So if we take the case of the 4, for example, and I go to the 4 triggers are going to be playing. So if I play it, they are on the same spot, but they're just triggering. So it's the same but the opposite than the XOR. Now then you have the sub, which is the last operator. So this means that the steps from the 1 will play unless the 2 adds a step on the same place. So this is very similar to the XOR. The only difference is that on the XOR, 1 cancels 2 and 2 cancels 1, so they cancel each other. On this one, 2 will only cancel 1. So in the case, if I go back to the beginning, you know, we get nothing, and I go to the XOR, they are canceling each other. But if I go to the sub, you know, we get the same result because the 2, again, remember, it's canceling the 1. But if I just offset this, we start getting, you know, the combinations, and that's, you know, the whole point of all of this. I'm going to add more to the 1, and I'm going to be doing less to the 2. There we go. Now, my advice for this is that don't think about this way too much. The idea is to mess around with this and just get creative sequences. Now, I'm going to go all the way down on the 1, on the 2, and I'm going to go maybe just to 4 on the 1. So then you have the length, and notice that it says none available. And this is because this only works when you are working on per track mode. And since now, you know, we know how to change the length to per track, and I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to say per track and just go back to the sequencer. Notice that we get it right now. So if we create 4, it's going to be creating 1, 5, 9, and 13. You know, we get 1 for each on 16 steps. By default, the length is always 16. But what happens if, you know, we trim it down? Of course, these steps will start to change because the boundaries changes. So if we have maybe 7, of course, now we will get triggers on different steps. That's, you know, that's the plan. So if we make it longer, it's going to be much longer. So yeah, all this depends on what you want to do. And again, my advice is for you to not think about this too much. Just go and mess around with this and just get, you know, cool sounds. And okay, I'm starting with the default kit on a completely empty sequence. And now we need to discuss the trigger. Now the trigger has 2 pages. If I tap this, it's going to go to the page 1 and 2. Just going to toggle the pages. Now you can do it with the arrows. Before, you know, you had to, you know, do something like that or do function and just tap it. Not anymore. You just can use the arrows. Important things that you need to know when you work with all the pages is that when you are on a page, you will get the labels of the different params. If you press and hold the button, it will show you the values instead. So if I go to the other page and I press and hold, notice that it's giving me the values. Super important. Also, if you go right here, let's say that I want to know the value for the length. If I press and hold, it's going to tell me the values. Now, if I move the length, you know, it's going to go by tiny, small amounts. But also what you can do is hold the function and move the knob. And now notice it will go and do different values. So it's moving on a different way. So this is called param value jump. Okay, so I'm going to be using, I guess, the number 10. So the options that you have right here are pretty simple. If you play this, this is going to be the pitch or the note of your keyboard. If I play this and we move it, it's going to go up and down in pitch. Now, if you're thinking, oh, okay, we are detuning the sample. No, this is actually the trigger. It's like offsetting the keys on a keyboard. Well, this is the same thing. is the keys of the keyboard. Then on the source, we use the tune to alter the pitch with the machine, but that's, a different thing. Right here, it's just going to be the note. Now then you have the velocity. If I go down in velocity, it's going to go down. If I go up, it's going to be up in velocity. Now, when you add something to the sequence, I'm gonna go full. So if I go to grid recording and I add something here, and then I go down and I add something here, and then go up and then down, just like that, it will affect all the triggers. To record the velocity or the changes that you do for each trigger, that's called param locking, right? We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. Right now, this will control the global trigger that you have for all the triggers, of course. Now then, length is going to be the length of the note. If I press the 10 and just press and hold, notice that the sample, it's just a pretty long sample. So I'm going to be entering into grid recording and I'm going to add it to the step number 1. If I play it, notice that it's super short. And it's because the note or the trigger, it's just super short. So that's going to be the length, the duration of this trigger. If I go up on the length, now it's going to be, much longer. And like I said before, you can use functions and go in small values. And in this case, it's going to be 1/4. And, we can do half. And it's going to be from 1 to 8. And then, So yeah, you can control all this. Now, it always depends on the sample that you're using. It's a very kind of a percussive sample, just like that. Well, that's just, not going to work. But in the case of this sound, it will work. If I go all the way up and make it really crazy, it's going to last the whole damn thing until it re-triggers. Cool. I'm going to go down to 1/16, which is the default value. I can add tricks right here on the 1, the 5, the 9, and the 13, and it will, trigger. Now then you have the probability, and this is the chance. So 100%, it means that it will always play. But if I do maybe 50%, the triggers, they have a 50-50 chance of playing or not. Notice that sometimes they're playing and sometimes they're not. That's, the probability. Now, on the Mark I, the probability, when you scrolled all the way up, you had the conditionals. On the Mark II, you don't have that anymore. You have the fill and the conditional knob right here. Now, fill and conditionals, this is a very long subject. Just like I did for other Elektron devices, I will upload a video deep diving into all the options one by one with examples that you get right here. And then again, this can be really confusing. So again, check the cards and links in the description. Now, one thing that you can notice right here is that they are locked. You cannot use them. The only way they work is when you press the trigger, you hold it, and then and only then you can, alter all of this. So then you have the LFO and the filter, and it says T because it's talking about triggering. So if I, again, just play it and I go to the filter and begin to talk about the filter in a minute, I'm going to go down and maybe do a little bit of resonance, and I'm going to use the envelope. And notice that every time that we hit on a trigger is modulating the cutoff. That's the whole point. So each trigger will fire the envelope and trigger the envelope to move the cutoff, and we get that modulation. That's the option. If I turn this off, notice that the triggers will not trigger the envelope filter. So this is what it means. If you turn this off, the triggers will not fire. And the LFO trigger is the same thing, but for the LFOs that you have right here. If this is off, it will not trigger the LFOs. I guess we can move forward to the next page, which is going to be the Retrigger. Now on the Mark I, this was on a different screen. Now it's just on the trigger screen, which is, fine. Now this is about retriggering. If I play a key, maybe I'm going to be going to something like that, nothing happens. So first you need to turn it on. If I play it now, notice that it's retriggering. And that's, that's the whole point. Now the rate is going to decide how it's going to retrigger. If I do 32s, 24s, and so on, and so on. If you want, you can go really high. Okay, so I guess you get the point. You choose whatever rate. when I play and hold it, we can hear how it's retriggering. But when you add it to a step, it's going to be very different. I'm going to add it to the 1. What is it? We just get 1. I'm going to go up on the rate. And now you can hear the effect. So the length right here will affect the duration. I'm going to hold function. This is one of the, the values that you can jump. If it's 1/16, whatever it is that we do right here is going to happen on one single step. Notice that after 1, it will stop retriggering. But if I go to the length and I say that this will last, I don't know, 4, it's going to last 4. And I'm going to try to put it right there. Notice the retriggering is 4 steps in this case. And again, you can go higher on this and just make it super long. If I go all the way up, it's going to be just retriggering every time, right? It's okay, it's a little bit annoying. I'm going to make it around 16 steps, more or less. Yeah, 16 steps. So if I play it, it's going to last the whole damn thing. So then you have the V fade, and it says V because it's talking about velocity. So the velocity on the page number 1 really matters. I'm going to go maybe around 50 something. If I play it, what is it? Just goes quiet. Okay. So now the thing is that you can go into negatives or you can go into positives. If you go into negatives, it will fade out the retrigger. I'm going to go around there. That starts just hard and then fades out. And when it retriggers, it's just going to start all over again. Now then you have the opposite. If I go to positives, it will fade in the retrigger. Notice it starts low. So this is why I'm telling you the velocity really matters. If you have low velocity and then you go back and you play it, notice it will start very low and then will grow up. I'm going to show you the portamento and the portamento time in a second, but just like that, we have everything covered on this section. And I know that this may be a little bit boring, and remember that this is a crash course, pretty much. So, you can skip this section and maybe come back a different day when you feel curious about the triggering and so on and on and on, right? So that's why I make these videos. So, okay, so let me give you a couple of more tricks that you will need. So we made a lot of changes right here to this screen. We changed a lot of the params. If you hold the page button and then you press play, remember it says clear, it will just clear the page. So it means that it will go back or roll back to defaults, right? That's something that you will use the whole time. Let me go to the second page. If I press and hold and I press yes, it's going to randomize the values. Sometimes, this could be useful. And the other thing is that if you have a saved version of whatever it is that you're doing on this param page, when you hold the retrigger, notice it says reload. This will reload the last saved state. Now, on the second page, we have the portamento and the portamento time. I know that this looks simple, but it's just a lot more complicated than that. I'm going to be, again, going to that one, and I'm going to be turning the portamento on. This is just portamento. So if now I go here, notice that we get that slide or glide. And this is going to be the time, how long it's going to be. So maybe you're thinking, that's it. Well, no, that's not it. I'm going to maybe put it maybe a little bit more. There we go. So you have more options for this. If I go to function, hold it, and then go to filter, notice it says setup. If I play it, you have the setup configuration for the kit and the track. And you have a lot of options. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this because, again, this is already way too long. But if I go here, notice it says portamento. So you have a lot more options for portamento. If you want, you can change the slope. You can, of course, change the amount, but then you can change it to legato or glissando. You can do just legato only. Again, a lot of options. I'm not going to go through all of this, but if I go back, again, you have a lot of things. Some of these options I'm going to show you because we really need to learn about some of the features and we need to enter here. But maybe, just maybe, let me know down in the comments, I could just record a new video just showing you all the different functions that you get right here. And okay, now we need to discuss the SRC page. Like we discussed previously, this one is going to be the one that is going to play the sample. is the sound engine that controls the sample. Just by tapping the SRC again, you will be getting the second screen. The only thing that the second screen, and remember you can do it with the arrows, the only thing that the second screen will give you is the waveform. All the options that you have at the bottom and at the top are the same options that you get on the page number 1. Maybe you didn't know this because you're new to the Digitakt, but if you come from Digitakt 1, you already know this. What options do you have right here? And for now, I'm just going to be, maybe going to this sample. Right here, what this will do will tune the sample up or down. And right now, we are not changing the trigger tune. We are detuning with the sample engine. If I go to function, this will go into octaves. So then, like we discussed previously, right here, you can choose a different sample. We already talked about this. If you go to function, you can choose a different machine. By default is the one shot. You have a lot more options, and all of the options, all of the machines, they will do something different, and they will give you, some kind of function. Like I said before, I'm going to be uploading a video showing you all the machines. They're not that difficult to understand, but it will take a little bit of time just to explain what they do. Now, still on the one shot, it's going to be the one that you're going to be using the most. And right here, when I play a sample, you know what? This one is a very short sample. Maybe I'm going to go to this one. Every time I play it, notice that the start will just play back or start from the beginning. So what we can do with this is a sampler. We can move the starting and then move the other one, which is going to be the length. And this is the ending point. So if I do something like that, it will start and end right there. Now then you have the loop. What if you want to loop it? Right now, I'm going to need to move and maybe set a loop point. If I play it, it's not looping. Why? Well, right here you have the modes. The default one is going to be the forwards. But if I go to maybe forwards and then loop, we're going to see that when we reach the loop section, it's going to start looping the loop section. Then you have the other modes. It's going to be reverse. If you play it, it's going to play in reverse. And then if I go to the next one, it's going to be reversed, but then it's going to be looped. So like I said before, I will upload a video explaining all the machines. Check the cards or the links at the description. If the video was not released, well, it's not going to be there, but it will be there soon. All right, so let's talk about, I'm going to use the bass, why not? I'm gonna talk about the filter. Now, the filter is very simple. You have your cutoff right here. You can go down on the cutoff, and then you have the resonance. By default, when you load whatever kit, maybe an initial kit, the filter is going to be a variable state multimode filter. It's going to go from a low pass to a band pass to a high pass. And this is the only type that you get until we talk about the machines. I'm going to show you in a second. Then you have the envelope. And by default, if you go up on the envelope, you're going to be modulating the cutoff with whatever is that you have on the envelope. Now, the envelope, it's an attack, decay, sustain, and release. So this is going to, and maybe you're going to go down on this one. It's going to modulate. It's going to give you the times for the attack, if you want sustain or you want decay, and if you want release, get it. So this is a standard ADSR. I feel like I don't need to explain it. Still, if you go to the web and you type ADSR, you will find a lot of videos and tutorials showing how an ADSR works. Now, if you go to function and press it and hold it, notice that says del. So this, in reality, is going to be an DADSR, a delay, attack, decay, sustain, and release. So when you hold the function and you move this, is going to give you a little bit of delay. So when I press it, nothing happens, and at some point, it's just gonna, maybe it was too much, you're gonna do just a tiny little bit. Notice that I press, it's delaying the execution of the envelope, and then it's going to trigger. So this is what it does, but when you go to the second page, notice that this is the delay. So if I move it all the way down, it's the same option that, the same thing than doing this. So you have it on the second page. And what else do you have on the second page? Well, you have key tracking. If you want to go to key tracking, when you use the keyboard, all the higher keys are going to be a little bit brighter because this will scale the cutoff. Let me just show you maybe. There you go. I'm going to go there. And I'm going to go to key tracking and I'm going to go all the way down. If you don't know what the key tracking is, it will scale when you play a pitch. If I play a higher key, it's going to be pretty dark. If I play a lower key, it's still going to be pretty dark. So now if I go up on key tracking, it's much brighter. If I go to a lower key, it's still darker. So the key tracking, what it will do, it will listen to the keys that you play, the frequency. And if it's a higher pitch frequency, a higher key, it will scale or move the frequency so you can hear the higher frequencies. If it's a lower key, it will scale it down. And this is a very common feature that you can find on, a lot of synthesizers. Then at the bottom, you have the bass and the width. This is essentially a second filter that you get. And it's a low pass. That's that chopping the lows. And this is going to be a high pass. So in addition to the first filter, you have like a second filter. This is pretty much what it does. And sometimes it's useful depending on what you're doing. Now for now, I'm gonna go back to defaults. And the last thing is gonna be this one, the reset. Now, just to show you what this one will do, if it's like this is gonna be on and this is off. Everything right here is back on default and everything right here is back on default. I'm gonna be playing this and I'm gonna go sustain almost, I'm gonna go all the way up, why not? And then I'm gonna be doing a little bit of attack. And I'm gonna be using the envelope and I'm gonna chop the frequencies and I'm gonna do some resonance. So when I play it, it's going to be like that. And if I hold, notice that it's sustaining. Now I'm going to go to keyboard, and every time I play a key and play a new one, notice that it's just, we are getting this wow, wow, wow. And it's because we are retriggering the envelope and the cutoff will modulate. I'm going to play a key and I'm going to hold it. I'm not releasing this one. If I play a new one while holding this one, notice that we don't get that the wow. And it's because the envelope, it's not retriggering if we are holding keys. And all of this is just very, from something from synthesizers. If I go here and I enable it, now it doesn't matter if I'm holding a key. Every time I play a new key, it will re-trigger the envelope. This is why we get this option. Alright, so this is super important depending on, what type of sound is that you're using and what you're doing to the filter. In addition to the multi-mode filter that you get by default, you have all the filters, the things that you will need to go maybe to function and then go to the machines. And notice that if you come from the filter, it will take you to the filter machines. But this is in fact, the machine selection that you can choose with the arrows. So the first one is the multi-mode, which is the default, right? But right here, I can go to the second one, which is going to be a low pass 4. And if I go back to the filter and press something, it's just a low pass with 4 poles. And I'm going to go to maybe a different machine because again, this one is just too simple. The next one is going to be an equalizer. Now on this one, and I'm going to go maybe all the way up. So what you get is a notch, you can boost or you can cut actually. So you can boost, and if I play something, you can move it, move the boost. I know it's a little bit too loud, but then you can go all the other way and just notch it down. This is going to be how narrow the Q is going to be. So if you want super wide or you want super narrow. But that's pretty much it. I'm just going to go back to defaults and I'm going to go to the next machine. These ones are just pretty simple. I'm going to go to this one, which is the new comb filter. If I play something, it's going to sound really cool. So this is a comb filter and you can get really interesting sounds. Really, really cool. Right, so, you really need to experiment with this. But it can give you super cool sounds. And the other machine is going to be the legacy low pass and high pass. If I go right here, I can go to a low pass. Right, just a low pass, or if you go to the other side, there we go, is going to be a high pass. So it's just a low pass and a high pass, or just off. And okay, so those are the machines. The multi-mode, it's the default one. So this is, one of the updates that you get on the Digi or DIGITAKT II. But, you don't get a lot more filters. It would be nice to get, some other cool, weird filters. But, this is what you get. All right, so then you have the amp controls, and this is completely the same as the Digi or DIGITAKT I. You have only one tiny little difference, and this is the amp. So this will control how the volume will go out of the track. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of filtering and I'm going to use that bass. So the amp, again, you have an ADSR control. It will control how the volume goes out of your synthesizer. I'm sorry, your sampler. So yeah, on this one, you get, this is by default an ADSR, but you can change it to an AHD, which is going to be an attack, hold, decay. And right here, it's going to be the mode. Right now, it's an ADSR, but if you change it, it's going to be, this is the hold, it's going to be just, an attack and a decay, which is usually is going to help you to get very plucky sounds. Sometimes you don't need all the sustain or the hold. It's just nice to get this mode. All right, so an ADSR or AHD. And what else do you get? Not much. You have the volume. And as you can know, you can control the volume from the source. You can control the volume from the track. You can control the volume for the whole unit. And now you can control it from the amp. Right, so then you have the panning. And this is just the panning. And then you have the reset. And the reset, it works just like the filter reset that we discussed a few moments ago. So if you want to know how the reset of the amp works, check the filter section. So now you have a dedicated effects section. This is pretty cool. You have a lot of different things. And I'm going to be going into grid record and just add a few steps. And you get a bit reduction. If I go up, it's going to reduce until it's pretty smashed. Cool. Then you have an overdrive. And all of these are just things that we kind of know from Syntakt and the previous version of this unit. Can really crank it up. Then you have a sample rate redux that can go pre-filter or post-filter. And all of this depends on what you're doing on the filter. If I go to the filter, it will, affect how it sounds. And I know it's pretty nasty, but, notice how it's changing the sound. And all right, so, cool. What else do you get? Well, then you get a reverb, a delay, but now you get a chorus, which is super, super cool to get a chorus. Now, if you're starting with the DIGITAKT, this is maybe the first time that you have one of these. You need to know that you only get one delay, one reverb, and one chorus. You don't get independent delay, reverb, and chorus for all the different 16 tracks. You get only one. This is why these ones are sends. If you are playing something, you're sending to the chorus from this track. So if you're sending from the 13 tracks to the chorus, it's still going to be the same chorus, the same reverb, and the same delay. So it's like just sending from your DAW to a send. Well, this is the same idea. If you do function and then you go to effects, notice it says send effects. If you go there, you have the delay controls, then you have the reverb controls, and then you have the chorus controls. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this because, this is pretty simple. But, if you want me to go through all the different configuration options for the effects, let me know down in the comments. All right, so I have a tiny little sequence with the default kit. Pretty simple, just very dumb. So you have a feature called Control All, and it's pretty cool. I'm gonna play it back. So what you can do, you can go to track, press and hold. Notice that all the tracks will go white, right? So what you can do now is maybe I'm gonna go to effects, I'm gonna go to effects, and whatever I do right here, it will do the same for all the 16 tracks. So you're just, changing the params for all the tracks. And it's gonna do them all at once. So that it goes wild. Yeah, that's what we get. Now, if I release it, of course it's gonna stay like that. But if I hold the track again, we can go back to down to on the effects for all the tracks. Now, tiny little thing, if I press the track again and I go up on the effects or whatever configuration, doesn't matter, could be the filter. If I press no before I release the track, it will cancel everything I did. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna go to filter, I'm gonna go up on all the controls and then go down in the filter. I'm not releasing, I'm gonna do it again. It will roll back to whatever I had from before. Super useful function. If you go to function, hold it, and then you go to the setup, you have a super useful control all config. If I go there, it will give you something like this. I know it just looks a little bit weird. So what you can do right here, you can choose which tracks are affected by the control all. So let's say that I don't want to affect all the percussive sounds. All the ones at the bottom are, the melodic ones, the synth and the bass. So if I do something, it will only affect the melodic and not the percussive. So if I get out of here, just go back and do the same thing again. I'm gonna go to track and go to effects. I'm just gonna affect everything, but not the percussion. And if I filter, notice that the kick, snare, and hat are pretty clean because we are not affecting them. We are doing everything else. I'm gonna say no to go back to default. So pretty useful feature, tiny little feature. And again, if you want to enable it back, you just go to setup and you enable. I have the same sequence than before. If I go to function and go to the mod control, notice it says mixer. The first option inside mixer, you have a lot of options. If you keep tapping, it's going to be, the compressor. You can go, to the different pages by using the arrows. In this case, I just want to talk about the compressor. So this is a compressor. You get the usual suspects. You get the attack, you have the release, you have the makeup gain, right? And then you have your threshold. You can select the ratio, you can go into limit land, and then you have your sidechain. We're going to talk about this one, and this one is your sidechain filter, right? So you can filter some of the maybe low frequencies, so the compressor doesn't react too much to lower frequencies. And by default, this one is going to be all the way down. So it doesn't matter how much it's compressing right here. It's not doing anything. If I go up on this one, we are fully on compression. We hear just the compressed sound. But we can do parallel, blend a little bit of the dry and a little bit of the compressed one. Cool. Now, I'm gonna maybe go to default values. So the most interesting part of this compressor is going to be this option. So this is the sidechain, and you have different options. If I go all the way down, you have comp mix, then you have not comp, and then you have 1, 2, 3, and all the way up to 16, and then you have in LR, which is the inputs at the back of the unit. In this case, maybe I'm gonna go to the track number 1. So now, if I select the sidechain as a track, as the track number 1, the number 1 is the kick. So the compressor will only react to the track number 1, which is the kick. And you get that pumping type of effect. And maybe I'm going to be going to release, so it's a little bit more obvious. If this is way too much, I'm just going to do something obvious so you can hear. Alright, so that's it. Now, the thing is that you have all the options. The other options are not comp and then comp mix. If you are in comp mix, the compressor is reacting to everything, to all the tracks at once to everything. But you have something very useful within the setup. If you go to function and then you go to setup, you have the compressor routing. So here you can select which tracks will go to the compressor. In this case, to make it obvious, I'm going to go all the way up and I'm going to remove all the percussive tracks. None of them are going to the compressor. So all these tracks will not trigger the compressor. And if I, go back to the compressor and I play it back, I am using, I'm going to go back. I am using I'm using the comp mix. Now, if I go to mute mode and I mute these tracks, notice that the compressor is not changing. It's because, it's not reacting to the percussive part of my sequence. It's reacting mostly to the bass and the synthesizer that I have right here. So we get a kind of a cleaner compression. We can just, be a little bit more selective with this, which is super cool. Now I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna go back to the setup and I'm gonna go to the compressor routings. So all of these ones at the top are not selected and the ones at the bottom are selected. The ones at the bottom are the melodic ones. So if I go here, I can go to this option and say that I want to do the not comp. And that's how the compression changes. But now this one is reacting to the ones that are not selected. So it's doing the opposite. It's kind of inverting the instructions between the comp mix and the not comp. So if I do the same thing than before and mute the melodic tracks, notice the compressor is just reacting to the ones that are not selected within the setup and then the routings. It's just inverting or flipping the instruction. All right, so let me go back and I'm gonna go back to the mutes and bring everything back. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's completely up to you in what you want to compress. By default, it's gonna be the comp. And if I go to the routings, it's going to be all of them. If you go to the next page, you have two pages. You see the in for the L and the R. These ones are the inputs right there at the back. And then you have the effects sent. And again, you can just enable this. So by default, the effects are not going to the compressor. If you press this and you use a lot of effects, now the effects will go to the compressor. So you will be compressing, whatever is that you're selecting right here and the effects chain. And again, if you're inputting something at the back, you can route it through the compressor. This is why, this is called compressor routings. All right, so the param and preset locks are fundamental in the Elektron world. It's a way of doing automation or motion sequence. In the Elektron universe, this is called locks or locking. I'm gonna go to the 10 because it doesn't sound that hard. So I'm gonna go to grid recording. I'm gonna add step 1, 5, 9, and 13. So right here, the idea is to do automation. I can go to this one and, maybe I'm gonna go to the 5, maybe. And I'm gonna go and hold it. You must not release this one. While holding the trigger, you need to change the controls. And this will remember that automation for you. This is called locking on the Elektron universe. If I go to here and then go to D or maybe up, it's going to change it. And if I go down this one, it's going to do it. Now maybe just changing the pitch, not so fun. So maybe on this one, I can go to the effects, make something crazy. And on this one, maybe just chorus, a little bit of reverb. On this one, I'm going to go down on the filter. Again, you can create really cool things just with this. Maybe this one, I'm gonna go to effects and just change it. Now, I want you to notice that every time that we add some automation or locking, and from now on, I'm gonna say locks because that's, the technical name on the Elektron universe. I want you to notice that something happens to the triggers. They are blinking. So when something blinks right here, it will pretty much tell you that you have some kind of a locking or some kind of a lock. Also, when you press it, notice that the pages where you have some kind of a locking will go red. In this case, I'm going to select the mod, and you can see that I have a lock on the trigger, which was the tune, and I have a lock on the effects, which was, all the 3 effects. And this is the same thing for all the different locks. It will tell you where you have a lock. On this one, I have a filter, and I have it on the trigger. Cool, right? Okay. Now, what if I want to remove a lock? So on this one, I know that I have a lock on the effects, right? So what you can do, you can just remove the step and you can add it again. And notice that now this one, it's not blinking. So we don't have a lock anymore. If I go here, it's off. Alright, so that's one way of doing it, just removing and adding the step. Another way to get rid of the locking will be holding this, and now you can go to where you want to remove the lock, and you just need to tap it. Alright, just press down the data entry. And if I go to here, notice that I'm going to go to a trigger, I'm going to clear, I'm going to go to effects, clear, clear, clear. And same on this one. Just going to clear all the params I just changed or locked. And there you go. That's param locking. Can we do all of this live? Of course we can. Right now I'm on grid recording. I'm just going to remove it. I'm still on the same track. I'm going to enter live recording. So I can do something like that and it will just record it. Maybe on the amp, we can go to the left and then to the right, and it will just record the motion or, do the locking. And I guess on this one, it didn't happen. Or maybe it was not that obvious. Cool. Maybe the filter. I'm going to do a little bit of resonance and just do the trick. You can create really cool sounds just like this. Now, when you enter grid recording, you're going to see something a little bit funny. You see that you have a red and you have a yellow. I'm going to tell you why in a second. Let's say that I want to remove all the locks I did for the effects. So I'm going to be holding no, and I'm going to be holding this one. And notice it says erase locks. And this is a way of live erase the locks. Cool. Okay, so then you have the red and you have the yellow and it's blinking. Why do you get this? So when it's red, it means that right there you have a trigger. Remember, I added a note or a trigger to the 1, 5, 9, and 13. And if it's red, it's blinking, and it's because you have a lock and you have a trigger. But then on the other ones, you don't have a trigger. You only have a lock. Because this one, again, works like a step sequencer. If you move something, you modulate something, it will record that motion into all the different steps. So if you have a yellow and it's blinking, it's because you have a lock and not a trigger. Right, so red, trigger, and lock, and yellow is just lock. And now, since we know param locks, I guess it's time to talk about preset locks. Just like creating a param lock by going to a trigger and just recording something, what we can do, instead of changing params on the triggers, we can change the preset. So yeah, we can change to a completely different sound on just one single trigger. To do this, you need to go through the pool. And now I guess it's time to talk about the pool. I'm on a clean project and a clean pattern. If I play something, I have nothing, and I have the default kit. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be going to the manager and I'm going to be adding presets to the pool. Right now, you don't need to understand, you just follow my lead. I'm going to go right here to the perform, which is, the presets and the kits, and I want to load some presets. I'm going to go to the manager, I'm going to go here. Now, I'm not going to go super specific, I'm just going to be just checking different patches, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to check many. And I want to add them to the pool. Once you selected, you have selected the presets that you want to add to the pool, then you go to the left and it says add presets to the pool. I'm going to say yes, it's going to copy the presets, and now the 15 presets I copied are inside the pool. All right, so I'm going to go outside, just going to no, and go back to the main screen. I'm going to be doing the same thing I did before. Maybe I'm going to go to the 10, I'm going to go grid recording, add 1, 5, 9, then 5, and then 13. And if I play it, we get the default sound. How this works is the same as param locking, but now if I hold a trigger, I need to move the level data. When I do so, it's going to give me the presets pool. So now what I need to do, I just need to check or to select one of the presets. And I'm going to randomly select presets. I'm going to go to that one and I'm going to go here. I'm going to move and I'm going to select, I don't know, that one. I'm going to go here, select that one, and I'm going to go and, I don't know, do 4, whatever. It doesn't matter. So now when I play it, each trigger will be playing that preset. How cool is that? Just like by doing this, you can, you know, do wild things and create different sounds. Maybe I'm gonna go here. There we go. It's pretty wild, but you know, I'm just giving you an example. So yeah, you just hold the trigger and you can load a preset for any of the tricks. Once you have something going on, if you push and hold that trigger at the top, it will let you know the name of the preset that you are locking right here. Another thing that you can do is to hold the trigger, and when you push the level data, it's going to go back to whatever you have by default. And I'm going to do it to some of them so we can, you know, really hear that we are going back to the default sound that we had right there. We are pretty much erasing the preset lock. Yeah, you know, really, okay, so really powerful stuff. You have 16 tracks and you can really spice it up by bringing different presets, and you have a lot of slots inside the preset pool. So yeah, it's just, you know, pretty wild. Maybe you're wondering, why do we need to load presets and add them to the pool first? Now remember that the Digitakt needs to load the sample to your project, and then it needs to load the preset, and it needs to do it very quickly for each of the steps that you're locking, each of the presets that you're locking. So they need to be ready. That's why you need to add them to the pool, so the Digitakt can be aware of this and be ready when you use the preset lock. So now that we know this, I can go to the manage right here and we can go to that pool. Remember, if we go there, we can see all the sounds that we added to the pool. And we can, of course, we have the advanced functions and we have the filters right here. So, you know, just like we get on the samples, the presets, you know, we get the manager for pretty much everything. A manager for pretty much everything. So the Perform Kit is a new feature from the Mark II, and first, before I can show you what we can do, I need to show you the problem. I have 2 different patterns, the 1 and the 2, and they sound really crappy. So I'm gonna go to the 2, and the 2, it's the same performance. So for now, I'm gonna go back to the 1. What I want to do, I want to play the pattern number 1, and I'm gonna be going to the effects so I can remember what I did, and I'm just gonna, let's pretend that I'm just improvising and just going really crazy on this one, right? As soon as I change the pattern and I go to the number 2, it will load the number 2 and there's no transition at all, right? And it makes sense. We are changing the pattern where I don't have all of this. Now, the problem number 1 is that if I change it back, it's going to be that. By default, on the pattern number 1, the Digi or Digitakt, it's saving or remembering the changes. So it's doing kind of an autosave. So if I want to roll back, I will need to go down on this ones, remember what I did, and just go down or reload the last saved state. That's the other problem. So, you know, we have 2 problems. The one that if I go to the number 2, is going to be there's no transition, and the one that if I go to the number 1, it will, you know, remember what I did on my improvisation. So for this, you know, we get the Perform Kit. I'm going to go back to having nothing, right? Just back to having nothing. It's just, you know, the clean kit. Now, if I go to function, I hold it, and notice it says perform. I'm going to press it and it says Perform Kit on. And notice that the light, you know, the button lights up, and at the top you get a P. If I play it back, whatever is that I do now, it's going to remember it. Let's say I'm going to do that. I just go crazy. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the pattern number 2. If I go to the 2, the Perform Kit, what it will do, it will take whatever is that I did. Notice it's playing the number 2. So it's remembering my improvisation with the effects. So now when I am on the pattern number 2, I can, go down and create a better transition. And if I go back to the pattern number 1, notice that it's not auto-saving the changes, right? So this is one of the ways, one way you can use the Perform kit. It solves, both of the problems. Now I'm going to go up on all the effects and I'm going to be playing this. Now the Perform kit is something that happens in memory. As soon as I go to function and turn it off, it will go back to the default state before, changing whatever it is that we changed. And if I go back to Perform kit, notice that none of the changes are there. So I'm going to need to do them again if I wanted to. Let's say that you liked what you did and all the changes, all the locks and just everything that you did. You liked it and you want to save it. So when you go to Perform right here, you hold it and instead of doing no, you do yes. And by doing this, it's going to take you to the save kit and you can, save it as a kit. This function, it's great, especially when you're performing and changing patterns and you're improvising, and also, when you're just trying to produce something at home and you like what you did and you want to keep it, then you save it and you don't lose it. On the latest firmware update, we get the page loop. So let me show you what I have so we can understand. I have 4 pages and the 4 pages are playing something else. So if I start from the beginning, it's just a kick and a snare, a kick, snare, hat, and a kick, snare, hat, and a synth. And then, the whole thing starts over. So I have just 4 pages. That's the deal right here. So what I want to do, I want to maybe loop one single page. I don't want to go through all the 4 pages. So with grid recording on, this needs to be on, you can hold the page. Once you do so, and I know the camera's maybe not going to show you, right here, the ones at the top, all the way from 1 till 8, are going to be all the pages. You have 8 pages, so this is the representation of all the pages. Since I have 4, that's why you have the 4 right here. And at the bottom, it's a little bit green. Maybe you cannot see it, but they turn green. So now, when you play something back, and I'm going to be playing this, I can even hold right here, I can select maybe the first one. And notice that it will go to that page and it's just playing that page. It's just looping that page. Super cool. I can also maybe select the first page and the last page. And now it's going to loop between the first one and it's going to loop between the 4th one. If I want different combinations, I can do 3 and 4 or whatever it is that you have. And this is great, for performance, but it's also great for editing. Let's say that you want to be on the, maybe on the, on the page number 3. And right there, you want to go to that page and you want to make some edits, you can loop that page and listen to that page. It's a great feature. All right, so we are pretty much done. To finish, if you go to function and you go right here, you have the mixer. If you go to the arrows, you have an internal mixer, which is going to be all the level of all the 16 tracks. And like we discussed previously, you have a level data, you have the source level, you have the amp level. So yeah, you have a lot of gain controls on this device. And if you go down, it's going to be, let me go up, there we go down 2 pages of all the 16 tracks. The next page, you have the controls, the mixer of the sends right here. And you even have volume right here. And you have a master overdrive. So if you want to crank it up, you can. What else? If you go next, you have the external mixer. If you are inputting something through the ins, right here you can decide how much you want to send to the end, to the effects, and of course the ins and the balance, of course. And that's pretty much it. And as always, if you liked all of this and you learned something on this video, please like the video. This is how this channel grows. And this channel is supported by viewers only. I'm not supported by any brand so far. So if you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube thanks, and Patreon.